Friday. It's time for our national town hall meeting with the man I think of as America's senator. Although the good citizens of Vermont, I was one for a decade, know that he's theirs, Senator Bernie Sanders. But first, just a quick programming note. This is the last week that we will many of you are listening to us time delayed. You're hearing us at 3 o'clock Eastern time or noon Pacific time. And we will be live with Bernie next week at 3 o'clock Eastern time, noon Pacific time. On if you're listening to us time delayed, you'll simply be hearing us live and you'll be able to call in. And if you're listening to us right now in the noon time and live or 9 a.m. Pacific time on virtually all of our stations, they will be moving us back, to the 3 o'clock time so that you'll be able to call in. So a whole lot more people will be able to call in, which is a great thing. Senator Sanders, welcome to the show.
So, Tom, what I want to ask you, do we change the name of the program to Late Afternoon Snack with Bernie? Or
Well, on the West Coast, it's lunchtime.
It's brunch. All right, so we get a brunch. And
we can still call it brunch, or we could call it lunch. But I like brunch with Bernie, and I like the double Bs. But so what's going on in the Senate, and what are you working on right now, Senator?
Incredibly busy time. Sometimes I walk in there on Monday night, and the next thing I know, I'm on a plane back home on Thursday night or Friday. Let me just touch on some of the issues that we have been involved in. I am very, very proud that on Tuesday, which is town meeting day in the state of Vermont, that's when all the towns get together and deal with their municipal budgets, their school budgets, et cetera, we had 64 towns in the state voting to tell the United States Congress that we need a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United, that disastrous Supreme Court decision, which is now allowing corporations and billionaires to pump huge amounts of money into the political process. We have two states, New Mexico and Hawaii, whose legislatures have already voted on this issue. So what we're seeing, I think, at the grassroots level is that the American people are saying, excuse me, corporations are not people. We do not want to evolve to a situation where a handful of billionaires are determining who gets elected in the United States of America. I see this Citizens United case is just absolutely horrendous in terms of the future of American democracy. I've got a constitutional amendment in to overturn it. Others do as well. And this is an issue we have to stay focused on. But bottom line is Vermont has spoken out on this issue, and I hope the rest of the country follows us. Another issue that's obviously on everybody's mind, especially those people who are driving right now, is the high price of gasoline. And here's the key point that I want to make on this. So we've been working hard. We sent a letter to the chairman of an agency called the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Right now, the evidence is overwhelming. I don't think anyone disputes it anymore, that one of the reasons that gas prices are soaring has nothing to do with supply and demand. Supply today, Tom, is higher than it was 3 years ago when gas was $1.90 a gallon. Demand is lower than any time since 1997. And what I think many economists, the St. Louis Fed, many others now acknowledge is one of the major reasons that gas prices are spiking is because of the speculation of Wall Street firms on the oil futures market.
The banksters are locking it up.
They're doing it again. Yeah. So on one hand, you got, of course, the oil companies, Exxon Mobil, and those guys making $1 trillion in profit in the last 10 years. They're ripping off the consumers. And then that's not enough. You have the Wall Street guys, Goldman Sachs leading the pack, dominating the oil futures market, driving prices up. Interestingly enough, according to McClatchy, an article on February 21st, U.S. demand for oil and refined products, including gasoline, is down sharply from last year, so much that the United States has actually become a net exporter of gasoline, unable to consume all that it makes. We're exporting gasoline, and yet prices are soaring. And I think what this article, and I think most people understand, this has to do with speculation. Now, here's the point. As part of the Dodd-Frank financial reform bill, what the Congress told the Commodity Futures Trading Commission is you got to deal with this issue. You have to end excessive speculation on the oil futures market. You got to do it by January 2011. Well, last that I heard, we're in March 2012, and guess what? They have not done that yet. So I will be talking actually later this afternoon to Chairman Gensler, and we're just developing. These guys have got to obey the law, is what it's about. And they got to start putting what we call position limits. Limit the amount that any company can control on the oil futures market, and economists tell us that will drive gas and oil prices down. So that's an issue that we're paying a lot of attention to. There's another issue out there that does not get much attention, but I think it's awfully important. I held a hearing on this as chairman of the subcommittee on primary care, and that is the dental crisis in America. We often talk about the health crisis. We don't pay attention to the fact that 130 million Americans have no dental insurance at all. Many, many millions of people are suffering with dental pain. They just can't afford to walk into a dentist's office because the cost of dental care is so very expensive. On top of that, we are seeing more dentists retire than are graduating dental school. So we have a crisis in number of dentists that we have. And then even with the dentists we have, many of them are simply not treating low and moderate income people. They're into, cosmetic dentistry. So how we create a situation where people get the dental care they need, and dental care is more than a pretty smile. What dental care is about is a health issue. If you're not digesting your food properly, you're going to have health problems. Poor teeth can result in infection and serious health problems as well. So it's an issue that we are focusing on. We had a very interesting hearing on this a couple of weeks ago in Washington. We're going to have a public meeting on that in Vermont tomorrow, actually.
Great.
Another area that I think we're making a little bit of progress is I perceive that the consciousness in this country is growing about the decline of manufacturing and the difficulty it is for many of us to buy products made in America. And this is a huge issue. We have lost some 60,000 factories in the last 10 years. More and more of the products that we consume come from China and other countries. And I think people understand that unless we're building the products, manufacturing the products that we consume, you're not going to have a strong economy. I have been working with a number of government agencies, and we're going to expand that. We're working with the Smithsonian. We're working with the agency that supplies products to the national parks and monuments. And now we're working with the Veterans Administration. And as I mentioned last week, I learned about that problem right on this program, Tom. Mm-hmm. A woman veteran called us up a couple of months ago. We investigated it. She was right. And right now within the VA, we're trying to make sure that the products they sell in their hospitals are made in America. And we're going to expand that into other areas as well. But there is a growing consciousness about the need to buy American, the need to have legislation passed, which says that when we do work, that to as great a degree as possible, those products are made in America, and we create jobs here in this country.
That's great. That harkens back to the 1935 Buy American Act that Franklin Roosevelt passed, that government spending has to go for American goods first.
Right, and I believe Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio is going to be introducing that language again in terms of the transportation bill. Mm-hmm. A lot of product is used in the transportation bill, obviously, which, by the way, is another important piece of legislation we're dealing with right now. We hope that at a time when the Senate has been fairly dysfunctional and not getting anything done because of Republican obstructionism, we hope and believe that next week we're going to pass a transportation bill which is $109 billion to start rebuilding our roads and bridges and rail. This is not enough money. In fact, it's a fairly modest proposal given the enormous infrastructural needs that this country faces, but it will do a couple of things. So we rebuild our crumbling infrastructure and also create a significant number of new jobs. So that's a positive sign, I think, in the midst of a fairly dysfunctional Congress.
Yeah, and let's hope we can get it through. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Check out his website, sanders.senate.gov.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Because over at Bernie's website, you can find his petition his constitutional amendment to repeal Citizens United, to overturn it, basically, and sign up for the Bernie Buzz. And welcome back. And, special note to our Free Speech TV viewers. Free Speech TV is also moving us back to 3 to 6 p.m., so they're following us, so you will still be able to watch us live just 3 hours later than right now. And Amy Goodman is coming back to the noon to 1 spot on Free Speech TV. So, Joe in Niagara Falls, starting Monday. Joe in Niagara Falls, New York. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders. Thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Well, thank Thank you for taking my call. I have a question. Right now, the FCC is bidding up airwave spectrums for Verizon and other companies. Now, why can't the post office take and bid on those airwaves and create a wireless system for those of us that only have one provider to choose from?
You know, Joe, thank you very much.
It would be a way to raise money.
That question about the post office. That was one of the issues I hoped to have gotten to a moment ago. So let me say a word on that. We have been working very, very hard to kind of save the post office. The Postmaster General a while back came up with a proposal that called for looking at shutting down 3,700 rural post offices, 15 in my state, 85 in Montana. Would have been a disaster for rural America. Wanted to shut down half of the processing plants, slow down mail delivery service, ending one-day service in many parts of the country. And some of us thought that was a terrible idea. So I've been working very, very hard on that issue. And one of the issues, Joe, that you're touching on is the post office now has a problem. They have a number of financial problems. One of them is that obviously first-class mail is going down because people are using email and the Internet to pay their bills, etc. Second of all, the post office in an absolutely unfair way and unprecedented way is being asked to come up with $5.5 billion each and every year for future retiree health benefits. Nobody else has to do that. They have $44 billion in the account, in my view, in the view of other people, experts. They don't need to put any more money in the account. It's enough for the next many, many years. One of the areas that we're looking at, Joe, is to see how we can expand the products and services that the post office provides. What else can they be doing other than just delivering mail? And your idea is an interesting idea. It's a fairly radical idea for the post office. But one of the approaches that we're looking at is say to these guys, okay, what else can you do? You're in a rural town in America. Other than selling stamps, what else can you be doing? Can you be selling hunting licenses, fishing licenses, doing passports, doing packaging in a way that you don't do it right now? Can you be cashing checks? What other services are out there? So whether it's the spectrum that the post office can look at, I don't know. But we are proposing, and I think will be part of the new law, what we'll call a blue ribbon commission to look at new entrepreneurial ways that the post office can expand services and raise new revenue.
Is there any possibility, Bernie, that the post office can claw back any of the retirement funds that they've overpaid?
Yes, absolutely. That's absolutely part of what we want to do as well. There's about $13 billion that's gone into the federal employment retirement system and the civil service retirement system, and that's generally acknowledged, and we intend to bring that back to the Postal Service.
And that money should have been within the postal. It should have stayed within the Postal Service.
Yeah, what the overpayment has only exacerbated the Postal Service's financial problems.
Very interesting. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour here on the Thom Hartmann program. We'll be back with more of your calls and questions for Senator Sanders right after this. The Thom Hartmann program is brought to you in part by Solar World. SolarWorld.com for information on solar electricity.
Never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
Tax the rich, feed the poor, tell there are no rich no more.
Welcome back to the True People's Media, the Thom Hartmann program. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls, and Linda in Barrie, Vermont, who listens to WDEV, and we will be live on WDEV next Friday as well. Linda, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello, Senator Sanders. How are you?
Good, Linda.
And hello, Tom.
Hello.
My question is, why are pharmaceutical manufacturers not making enough medication for everyone?
That is
I
a very good
understand
question.
this is a big problem.
It is a big
and
problem.
I'm running into it here in central Vermont.
Oh, yeah. We are working on that issue, and I think there have been some breakthroughs. What Linda is talking about, folks, is unbelievable as it may sound. There are life and death cancer drugs and other important drugs that hospitals and doctors are now finding it very difficult to come by. And I think what ends up happening is, I understand it, Linda, there is not enough, these are specific drugs, and the companies, I gather, don't think they could make as much money as they would want compared to other products that they're selling or whatever. But there is legislation to begin to address that issue, and I think we are beginning to make a little bit of progress. But the idea, can you imagine being on a drug therapy if you have cancer, and the doctor tells you, I'm sorry, we can't continue that because we don't have access to that drug anymore. So Linda points to a very important issue that we are working on.
Don in Harrington, Delaware. Hey, Don, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders, I'm a letter carrier, and the word out there is that because both sides are for this transportation bill, Darrell Ice is going to slip a amendment in there to hurt the Postal Service, and Speaker Boehner is not sure yet if he's going to let him slip that in there. Can you do like a Senator Jesse Helms and not let that bill go through? That FAA bill that you guys all voted for hurt the railroad and the flight attendants unions because everybody passed it and didn't read that bill. Can you help us out?
Well, Don, we are leading the effort on this effort. So we are working very hard with all of the postal unions. And right now, what we are trying to do literally is prevent the shutting down of 3,700 rural post offices and half of the processing plants in this country and slowing down mail delivery service. So to answer your question, what we have in the House is ISA, who has introduced legislation that would be absolutely horrendous. So and the answer to your question is obviously we will do everything we can to defeat proposals that will hurt postal workers or the U.S. Postal Service.
Peter in Albany, New York, watching us on Free Speech TV. You're on the air with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you very much. Senator Sanders, I had a thought. Why not have the Social Security Administration issue a photo ID to satisfy voting right laws? And also you can maybe have them get it at the post office, could be issuing them along with the Social Security Administration. And the other thing I wanted to say was, for the people of Vermont and the Northeast, plastic windows will cut your heat bill in half. For about $1 a window, you can cut your heat bill in half. I've done it 5 years in a row, and I'll hang up and get your answer. But I like you both, and keep up the good work.
Well, let me, Peter, in terms of the photo IDs, that may or may not be a good idea. But what I will tell you is that what Republican governors and legislatures are doing all across this country is very clearly an effort toward voter suppression. It is no secret. Everybody knows exactly what's going on. You tell the old, low-income people who don't have automobiles, people don't have good transportation access. You're saying to them is, if you want to vote, you're going to have to show us a photo ID. And even if you don't own a car and if you don't drive, well, that's tough luck. Yeah, I guess you can go to the other side of town and wait online and get your photo taken, and maybe it'll only cost you X amount of dollars. And I think that that's a disaster, because the whole argument for that is that voter fraud is this terrible, terrible problem in America. We got to protect the democratic process and against voter fraud. The answer is everything that I have read is that voter fraud is, thank God, in this country not a significant problem. Obviously, when it appears, it should be punished very seriously. But I think using the argument of voter fraud, what many of these right-wing legislatures and governors are doing is simply trying to suppress the vote. And it's kind of, as I see it, the other half of Citizens United. You make it harder for low-income people, minorities, older people to vote, and then on the other hand, you open up the opportunity for billionaires and corporations to spend as much money as they want. And that's kind of what the Republican two-pronged attack is against the democratic process. In terms of plastic windows, I know about plastic windows. Used to have them 30 years ago when I lived up in the northern part of our state. They do work. But better than that, what we're trying to do now is in Vermont and around the country stress and invest in weatherization. One of the areas and one of the ways that we can make huge progress in this country in transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel is through energy efficiency, is through weatherization. And there are, right now in the state of Vermont and many states, I suspect, people who have seen their fuel bills go down by 20, 30, 40, 50% because they're finally adequately weatherizing their homes. That's something we should be investing in, and we are beginning to make some progress there.
Is that a specific standalone piece of legislation, or was that something that would be attached to something else?
Well, we're working it in a number of ways. Bob Menendez in New Jersey and I passed legislation which put billions of dollars into doing just that, and there are other pieces of legislation as well.
That is great. Senator Bernie Sanders is with us. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour, 866-97-THOM. Our telephone number, Senator Sanders' website, sanders.senate.gov. You can see and sign the petition for his amendment to the Constitution to roll back Citizens United over there, plus a lot of great news, and you can sign up for his newsletter.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
And at ThomHartmann.com, you can drop into our free live chat room. You can post your own blogs. You can participate in our message boards. It's all free and fun.
We will continue to work for better and cheaper transportation, for low interest rates, for sounder home financing. And my friends, for all of these, we have only just begun to fight.
So we keep waiting on the world to change. Now if we had the power to bring our neighbors home from war, they would have never...
Welcome back to the place where despair is not an option. Phrase I borrowed from Senator Sanders back 7 years ago or so.
It's my intellectual property rights.
I owe you a nickel every time I use it. It's our Brunch with Bernie hour. Senator Bernie Sanders on the line with us in our national town hall meeting here. Dave in Orange County, California, listening on K-Talk in Los Angeles. You're on the air with Senator Sanders, Dave.
Hello, Tom. Hello, Senator Sanders.
Hi, Dave.
I'm a gay married man in the state of California. I got married in between the state Supreme Court decision back in 2008 and the awful Prop 8 election. I was wondering if, Senator Sanders, if you were aware that the IRS has changed its internal rules handling domestic partners and gay married couples, in that we are now required to combine our incomes for reporting purposes. We file as single. It's a very convoluted thing. But both my husband and I are self-employed, and so we pay the Social Security tax, the self-employment tax. My question is, this means we cannot get Social Security survivor benefits, yet we are it's insisted that we combine our incomes for the purposes of Social Security.
Actually, Dave, that's an issue I am not aware of, and it's an interesting issue. You are being treated differently than a heterosexual married couple?
Exactly. Exactly. We have to check the single box on the 1040, but we have to report both of our incomes and our withholding, our quarterly payments together and combine them for purposes of computing.
Dave, might this have to do with the federal DOMA law, the Defense of Marriage Act?
I don't think it does directly.
I suspect it does.
Seems to conflict with DOMA.
Let me
Thank you, Dave.
Give my office a ring on that, Dave.
I beg your pardon?
Give my office a ring on that.
Oh, okay, very good. But
let me see what we can find out about that.
Okay.
It seems to me it would be an opening for either litigation or legislation.
Okay,
thank you, Dave. Thank you very much. Ryan in Delray Beach, Florida, watching on Free Speech TV. Ryan, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hey, good afternoon, Tom. Good afternoon, Sanders. My question is, why can't every currency on the planet and anyone that has a currency be valued all the same and use simple denominations similar to what we have? I understand how our currency a little bit is valued, but I mean, as you guys say yourself and on freedom of speech, like it's not a sustainable way.
Well, Ryan, I think the answer to that is that you have many countries around the world who, sustain their own currencies in their own way, and I don't think we're close to having a one-world currency, so I don't think that's going to happen.
Sharon in Bellingham, Washington, listening on KBAI. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi. Yeah. With the voter suppression that's going on, it seems like we keep hearing the bad news about it, like this veteran who just was unable to vote. What I'm wondering is, can the U.S. Congress, the Senate and the House, whether they would do it or not, but have any way of stopping and slowing this down? Because I don't see much happening to actually stop it. And the only other thing is, I am an optician, and ocular health and vision, especially for kids who are poor, is extremely important along with dental. And I'll take your answer off the air. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. We have talked to the Attorney General's office and have asked them to be more vigorous in taking on these voter suppression laws, which to me are unconstitutional and clearly are very, very political. And they are doing some of that, but I don't think that issue has risen to the level in the Attorney General's office that it should have. I should also tell you that my office has asked the General Accountability Office to do a study about how significant the so-called voter fraud is and the implication of these voter suppression laws, because I think we want to just take away any pretense that any of these folks have that they are acting for any legitimate reason. Voter fraud is a serious business. People who do voter fraud should be severely punished. It virtually, thank God, in this country does not exist. So we have asked the GAO to study that issue. The question is, can legislation be forthcoming? The answer, perhaps. But this is a huge issue. We're looking to the White House for some leadership here, but it is an issue that we have got to focus on.
Mike in Minneapolis, Minnesota, listening on iHeartRadio. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Good afternoon. It's an honor to speak with you both. My question has to do with gas prices. When I've got an app on my phone that shows me exactly what oil does every day, and I want to know, why is it that when it goes up $1 to a barrel, the next day it goes up at the pump, but when it goes down $1 to a barrel, it seems to take a week or two to make it to the pump?
Hey, Mike, you're absolutely right. I think we have noticed that for many, many years. Look, as I mentioned earlier, when we talk about gas and oil prices, you're dealing with two of the most powerful political and economic forces in this country. You're dealing with the oil companies, ExxonMobil, who in the past has made more money in a given year than any other company in the history of humanity, and other oil companies have also made huge profits. And then on the other hand, now we're dealing with the speculators from Wall Street who control the oil futures market. So you're absolutely right. I have noticed that. I think many Americans have noticed that. When the price of barrel of oil goes up, gas prices go right up, price goes down, suddenly there's a significant lag in lowering the prices. So we're just dealing with real concentration of ownership issues, and it's causing severe problems for the American people. As I said earlier, we are focusing on the issue of speculation, demanding that the Commodity Futures Trading Commission do what they are supposed to do and end and break up this excessive concentration of ownership on the oil futures market.
Kathy in Etna, Wyoming, watching us on Dish TV or Direct TV on Free Speech TV. Kathy, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, thank you. My question is, yesterday morning, I think it was either yesterday morning or the day before, RT News had a brief snippet stating that RCIA in Blackwater is now, which is now called, Blackwater is called Academy, is in Homs, Syria, and I'm wondering why Blackwater is in Syria.
Well, Kathy, I think that's a very good question, and I don't know the answer. What I do know is that recently, last week it was, Secretary of Defense Panetta came before the Budget Committee, and some of us asked him about the general issue of contracting out. And, you know, it's funny, Tom, when we talk about the number of people who serve in the military, we often refer to those people who are in, you know, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, and so forth. Mm-hmm. The truth is there are more people under contract service than there are who actually work for the U.S. government.
Wow.
And it's hard to know exactly what that number is, but it may well be in the millions. I think the Department of Defense is now beginning to try to determine the economics of that, which might suggest that in many instances we are spending a whole lot of money, more money than we should. I'll never forget, I was in Afghanistan a couple of years ago, and we were being driven around, some of us in the Senate were being driven around in an armored car in Kabul, and there were two guys in front with their guns, and one guy was in the military and one guy was a contractor doing the same exact work, and one was being paid a hell of a lot more than the other.
Yeah. And, Jim in Los Angeles, listening on K-Talk. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, good morning, Senator. I have a question about energy. I totally support clean energy, obviously solar, wind, and if we can get 100% that's fine. But I don't think it's a good decision to push the market towards it while killing the oil industry, oil drilling, while the reality is that we still need oil. I mean, for example, internet went up, magazine sales go down, but it went gradually with a business sense. We don't kill the magazine because we're planning on developing the internet. So why not do these things concurrently and gradually let the market move itself out of the oil into clean, rather than shut this down, do this, because it doesn't make financial sense.
Jim, I don't think anyone is shutting down the oil industry. Everybody knows that the transition away from fossil fuel is not going to happen overnight. But I think what some of us are concerned about is that when you have oil companies like ExxonMobil making huge profits, and in some years paying nothing in federal income tax, and that's true for other companies as well, that's absurd. These guys don't need huge tax breaks when they're making incredible profits. And we're also concerned, obviously, and also about the impacts of global warming, which some of my Republican friends deny, but clearly is having a huge impact on the planet today and will have an only worse impact in years to come. So nobody, Jim, I think, is talking about or suggesting, because you can't do it, shutting down the oil industry. But we are suggesting that they don't need any more subsidies or tax breaks, and that we have got to focus on transforming the industry away from fossil fuel to sustainable energy and energy efficiency.
Brunch with Bernie, 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls for Senator Sanders.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And you can, a great news site that's updated very, very frequently is sanders.senate.gov. You can also sign up for Bernie's newsletter there. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you and Senator Sanders. It's Archie in Yucca Valley, California, watching us on Free Speech TV, Dish Interact TV. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
High noon, guys. Bernie, after what just happened to Elizabeth Warren with the ads and everything, do you think we should concentrate more on getting the House and the Senate back? Because the GOP's kind of shooting themselves every chance they get in wherever they want to shoot themselves. But that's my question.
Well, Archie, here's where we are politically, and I'm not the world's greatest pundit on this, but clearly in the Senate, it's going to be tough. Democrats, including, have a whole lot of seats that are up. We know that the Republicans and their friends in the super PACs are pouring huge amounts of money. I mean, people are focused on the money that's going into Gingrich or Romney or Santorum and the role of Citizens United there. But you should also know that in Ohio, against Senator Sherrod Brown, over $4 million has already been spent. Are they going to pour money into Massachusetts against Elizabeth Warren, in Missouri against Claire McCaskill, and all over this country, John Tester in Montana? And so we got to fight in order to defeat Republicans in the Senate. I think there is a outside shot, but a shot that because the American people are really catching on to what these Republicans actually stand for. Economically wanting to go back to trickle-down economics, denying the reality of global warming, pushing unfettered free trade after this horrendous Wall Street fiasco which caused this recession. They want more deregulation of Wall Street. They want to repeal Dodd-Frank. The American people, I think, are scratching their heads and saying, what are these guys about? Making it harder for women to get the birth control that they have fought for and received for decades, rolling back the clock on women's health. So to answer your question, Archie, I think the American people are beginning to catch on that the Republican Party has become a right-wing extremist party way out of touch with mainstream America. But I think what we've got to do, obviously, is retain Democratic control of the Senate. If at all possible, get the Democrats back in control of the House and reelect the president.
Clifford in Ishpeming, Michigan. We have just 1 minute till the break, Clifford. A quick question for Bernie?
Not a question. Well, a thing to probably solve the gas thing. In Michigan, when the electric companies, which are privately owned companies, in order for them to ask to get a raise, they have to go back to FCC, I think it's or Michigan.
Public Utilities Commission in Michigan, it's called.
That they need. Pardon?
It's called the Public Utilities Commission in Michigan.
Okay, but whatever. I mean, and they have to go there before they can raise their prices, which cuts out all the this stuff on Wall Street that's going on.
So your question for Bernie is, could that be done for gasoline nationwide?
Yeah, well, they're a private company, the same as your power companies are private, the same as the gas companies.
Sorry to interrupt you, Clifford, but we just have about 20 seconds left here, Bernie.
Interesting point. And the answer is that is an interesting point. Right now, these guys could double the price of oil tomorrow, and there is literally no regulation preventing them from doing so. And Clifford talks about the need for more regulation there, and I think he makes a good point.
Yeah, interesting. Senator Bernie Sanders with us. We will be right back with more of your questions and calls for Senator Bernie Sanders in our Brunch with Bernie Hour, our national town hall meeting with the guy I think of as America's senator. Stick around. Hey friends, Thom Hartmann here with big news. We're moving. Starting next week, the Thom Hartmann program will be live 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. That's noon to 3 Pacific Time.
Lost working time is lost money. Every day that a workman is unemployed, or a machine is unused, or a business organization is marking time, it is a loss to the nation.
Helping you win the water cooler wars, Thom Hartmann here with you, and it's our Brunch with Bernie Hour. Senator Bernie Sanders taking your calls. Laura in Los Angeles watching on Senator Sanders' website on sanders.senate.gov. Do I have that right?
Hello, Senator Sanders. I'm a huge admirer of yours, and I'm calling today about the post office, and I really have appreciated your leadership in this area, and I wanted to know if there was anything else that we could do right now as citizens to support saving the post office, support its innovation for the future. Thank you.
Laura, thanks very much. I'll tell you, I've been amazed at how much interest people have about the need to save the post office. Just yesterday, I will tell you, in the Democratic caucus, Senate caucus, we had the Postmaster General Donahue there to answer some hard and tough questions. Laura, what I would urge you to do, please call up your member of Congress and your senators and tell them that you think it's important that we not shut down post offices all over this country, slow mail delivery service, and lay off or shrink the workforce there by hundreds of thousands of American workers. There are ways that we can make the post office more innovative, more entrepreneurial. They can bring in more revenue. They can respond to the digital age. The world has changed. The post office has got to change as well. But I think we can do it in a way other than just cutting. So to answer your question, Laura, we're making some progress. There's a lot of discussion going on. Don't know what the end results will be. But more and more people in Congress and around the country are determined not to allow the post office to be savaged.
Jeffrey in Framingham, Mass. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello, I'm Jeffrey. My question is regarding Social Security. The question is, when applying for welfare benefits, if you're a Social Security recipient, why is it that they include that income as if it were earned income or a salary?
Because it's income. I mean, because they want to make sure that people who receive those benefits need them, and they have to calculate all of the income that people receive.
Jeff in Phoenix, listening on AM 1480. Hey, Jeff, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Bernie. I'd like to know, what do you think? Would sortition of legislators based on our national census end polarization and corruption in Congress?
You're talking about appointing? I
missed that point.
Yeah, I didn't understand that, Jeff. How would that work? What are you talking about?
Well, you understand sortition. I talked with you about this a couple weeks ago.
Sortition, okay.
The lottery picking.
Yeah, so you're saying people serve in Congress the same way that you get jury duty right now.
Instead of elections, which is the problem behind the whole thing.
This is the way the Greeks did it back in the day. Bernie, your thoughts?
Well, I think I'll serve with the elections system that we have right now. Yeah.
We do have one good word left over from that, Bernie. If you didn't show up, they had 6,000 people every year, and there was a lottery for it. And if your name was called and you didn't show up, you were called an idiota.
I mean, it's interesting, and it's important to learn. But I think for the foreseeable future, we are going to be continuing the election system that we have right now.
We have this thing called the Constitution, too. Kelly in Seattle, you're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hello, sir. My question to you today is concerning taxes. As a person that has never earned more than $25,000 a year, I feel like it's unfair for us to ask rich people to pay more than us poor people. And I feel like there should just be a flat tax where we all pay the same amount. So what I was thinking was, what is your thoughts on a flat tax based on 10% net worth instead of 10% income?
All right. Well, Kelly, you raised. Let me just say this. In terms of the flat income tax, which is not what you're asking, I think that is extremely regressive. I think that in our country, we have seen the wealthiest people become very much wealthier. We have seen their effective tax rate going to the lowest point that has been in decades, which is what folks like Warren Buffett are talking about. So I think we should have progressive income tax. I think we should do away with a lot of the tax breaks that now benefit in terms of dividend benefits, lower rates on dividends and so forth. You're raising another issue, and that is a tax on wealth, which is a very interesting approach, something that I have thought about for a number of years. I can tell you that it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it is something certainly that we should pursue. The other issues that we are looking at in terms of raising revenue for the government as a transaction fee on Wall Street. A whole lot of stocks are going bought and sold every day, and I think a transaction fee could bring in substantial income and dampen speculation as well. So you raise an interesting question. I disagree with the concept of a flat tax on income. That's regressive. It benefits upper-income people. The idea of a tax on wealth is interesting. There are other ways that we can go forward to bring in more revenue to the federal government in a way which addresses the reality that we have the most unequal distribution of income and wealth of any major country on this planet.
Bernie, just a minute left for the show. Not enough time to take a call. Your final thoughts and suggestions?
A lot's happening in Washington. I think the bad news is we are seeing now the naked power of corporate America and big money in terms of their willingness and ability to spend unbelievable sums of money in campaigns as a result of Citizens United. And by the way, it is only going to get worse. My hope is, I should tell you, that while we're focusing on a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United, that we can pass legislation which can diminish the impact of Citizens United, and that we can do that fairly quickly. For example, if you force the CEOs of the corporations who are putting these ads on the air to have their picture on the ad and say what any candidate has to say, they approve that ad, it will go a long way to significantly reduce the amount of ads that we see. So there's a lot that has to be done. The good news, I think, American people are catching on as to the reactionary nature of the Republican agenda.
Bernie, thanks so much for being with us today.
Good to be with you.
And we'll see you next week at 3 Eastern Time. Okay, thank you. Senator Bernie Sanders, sanders.senate.gov. Check out his website. We'll be right back.